Welcome to Life Astrologer with me, Anna Isabel, and I'm a practicing psychological astrologer. And with me today, I have Mariel Forde Clarke, who I'm really very excited to speak to because I've been reading her wonderful book, Whereafter. And so, Mariel, welcome to Life Astrologer.
Anna, it's such a blessing to be here, and greetings from the Western Shores of Ireland. It's incredible to be here, and thank you for having me.
I wonder, I often think about Ireland as having some, very mystical energy, particularly in the West. Is that me? Is that my imagination, or do you feel that?
Oh, we are steeped in mystery and mystical energies, and we have wonderful sacred sites as well, Anna. So Ireland is steeped in culture, and it's steeped in folklore, and it's just an incredible place to be. And I'm very blessed to be in the western part of Ireland, because the Atlantic ushers in all the positivity, and it removes all the negativity, brings it out into the vast ocean of life to transmute all the negative energies that might be brushed upon us. So it's a beautiful place, and Ireland is as I said, it's steeped in just magic. And we have a lovely traditions in Ireland for loving people and welcoming people, as they would say in Ireland, 100,000 welcomes, and in our Gaelic language, a céad míle fáilte. So it's wonderful to be able to express that here on your program.
How beautiful. I always have that sense when I think of the west coast of Ireland, and it's lovely to hear your experience of it.
Well, thank you. And maybe someday you will pop a visit to us, and we can show you the highs. We won't say the lows, always the highs.
Well, I think that would be wonderful, actually. It's I could take my dog with me, and I never go anywhere he can't come. So that sounds very good idea then.
Oh, that's amazing. All sentient beings are welcome upon this earth, and your little dog will be no different. There'll be a céad míle fáilte for your little dog as well.
Oh, lovely. Well, I've been looking at your chart, and you are a Gemini. And the thing about Gemini is this light energy. It's about learning and curiosity, and then sharing that. So it's not surprising that you've ended up writing.
I find that incredible, because, Anna, when you asked me for my date of birth, I'm glad you didn't mention the actual year. We'll keep that in the dark for a while. But I've always had an insatiable desire to find out more about myself astrologically. But my mom had 7 of us in family, so therefore she doesn't remember what time of the day or night. She hardly remembered the date, don't mind, time. And I believe that timing was very crucial to an astrologer's chart. But you were able to maneuver around it. But I've always loved books. I've always loved knowledge. I have this insatiable desire to keep learning more and more. And I have spent so much money on various courses. And my background originally started in science. I'm a serologist by profession, my many moons ago. And then I started all this holistic learning, and then I would travel abroad. I would meet wonderful people. I met the wonderful Louise Hay. I met Wayne Dyer. I studied with Deepak Chopra. So I've been blessed, and it was only when I was writing Whereafter that I realized, I really have been blessed amidst the chaos and the pain that I endured. But the blessings far outweighed the negative. So it was a wonderful opportunity then for me to bring all the knowledge from my workshops, my night classes, my private practice into being through the book. And I suppose, Anna, the book may never have happened, even though I'd all this knowledge acquired and accumulated over decades, that if I didn't have a ski accident, a very bad ski accident, which left me unable to walk, unable to work for months and months. And then one night, my beautiful guides, as they always do, They make sure I don't get much sleep. So I was shown like a jigsaw of the book of where after, and this was to go here and this was to go there and this, and then I said to them, oh, okay guys, hold on, there is no chapters here. We need chapters in a book. And they said, no, this is the format. This is the way. And each night a piece would be given to me that I was to put in the information here. Then I was to use my own experience with clients to tie in. And it was just an incredible, incredible journey of sacredness, of holiness, of reverence, and how it was all pieced together. So I suppose, Anna, for me, that was a great blessing. And as I said, without the accident, the book may never have happened. So the universe, as you know, has a way of grabbing our attention if we're not listening. So obviously I needed a big wake-up call before I was going to listen. That was always me.
Well, interestingly, I mean, there's a couple of things that I really picked up on your chart. The first is that you have the moon in Pisces, and now people who watch this channel regularly I'm sure, are going, oh yes, because they have seen so many people with a strong Piscean energy who are mystical in conversation with me. So this is you're in good company, shall we say.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it is. And I think for you, it's instinctive. This, perhaps it begins as strong intuition early in life. But I wonder whether as a child, you were aware of this already.
The ironic thing about it, Anna, is my grandmother was very psychic. But in those times in Ireland, even until today, I've been hiding in the shadows of my own gifts for years and years and years. And it's only now through my book that many of my clients that have ranged from every part of Ireland and some outside of Ireland who would have traveled to see me. But it's only now my family are beginning to realize, oh my God, there is something. They used to call me weird and different, and that I was away with the fairies, as they say in Ireland. But I knew it wasn't anything to be shying away from. I embraced it. But my grandmother, as I said, was very psychic. And my uncle, she had 7 sons. And one of the 7 sons, he was the 7th son of a 7th son. So he came into this world with huge psychic gifts as well, and healing powers. And my brother, who transitioned in 2002, was very young. And he was extremely psychic and gifted as well. So it's there in the family. It's like, I didn't wonder at it. I was the one, I suppose, that explored it more. I was the one that was intrigued by it, and I was never fearful of it. I was the one that would sit out and watch the moon at night. I was the one that would love to swim in the sea or the lakes. I was the one that climbed trees, and I knew I'd never fall. Do you know, that kind of way? I had this energy about me that I knew I was safe. I knew I was protected. And then when I was 15, I had this huge spiritual experience with Mother Mary. That experience will never, ever leave me. And hence, she's been with me through my work, and her energy channeled through me when I'm working with clients. So that's I suppose, my exposure to it, Anna.
And it's interesting because you have this moon in Pisces, but right next to it is Chiron, and it's obviously also in Pisces because they're together. I don't know how close they are, but they're close enough for me to say that it's significant. And the reason I don't know how close they are is because of the time of birth being missing.
Oh, yes.
But see that it doesn't really matter what time of day you were born. It's pretty close. So as I'm listening to you, I'm hearing Chiron speak, and Chiron is about wounds. And wounds around rejection. And you've been talking about having to hide your gifts. And so there's this sense of having something that it's not that you're ashamed of it, but that others might be ashamed of you for having.
Yeah.
And but it's very clear to me that it's a very strong thing within you. And obviously in the book, you talk about visions and you talk about things that you've seen. And I can see precisely why. So I think that was something that really stood out for me listening to you. But the other thing, which I think is actually rather important, is that your North Node is in Taurus, which means your South Node's in Scorpio. Now, the nodes are about karma, and they're about the soul's journey.
Wow.
And if I could sum up the journey from Scorpio to Taurus, I would say, and it sounds very dramatic, and possibly it can be very dramatic, but it's about going from the fires of hell into the cool grass of nature, and being in a pasture that's just calm and peaceful and tranquil. And that's the journey. So it seems to me that there's something here about your soul having had to undergo quite a lot of perhaps trauma at different times, and then moving through, and that being echoed perhaps in the earlier part of your life, and then until you find your cool grass where you can just be at peace. Is that sounding familiar?
Oh my God, Anna, I could listen to you all day, and I won't ask you to repeat it. But it totally resonated in my soul. Totally. And this is just incredible, because I did have many, many dark night of the soul journeys. I did have many, many traumas to overcome. In particular, in my earlier adulthood when I married. And I would say the punishments I felt that were coming in the guise of a husband was not what I had intended my life to be. I had a huge career in serology, which was in veterinary science. And then I got married. And that time in Ireland, Anna, you could not keep your work in the 70s. You had to give up your work, your career predominantly. And the fact that he was a police officer, he would be moved around to various locations. So good old Ireland, I followed his dream rather than my own. And that is why I think that my gifts, even then, while I knew they were there, I did not cultivate them. I didn't work with them. And when you spoke there about stepping onto pastures greener, it's like all these decades later, I'm very cute, I'm still not telling the age, all these decades later, I am finally stepping into the cool breeze, into the balmy evening of my life. And the grass is lush, it's beautiful, it's enriching, it's nourishing, it's soothing my soul from my earth star right up to my stellar gateway into the heavens. And I feel that I am very blessed with that. And yes, there has been major traumas, not alone through a very dysfunctional and traumatic marriage, but I have to say too, I bless him, because he was then, and still continues to be, one of my greatest teachers on Mother Earth, because I had to learn how to forgive. And then when I got very ill with cervical cancer, I was extremely ill and I had died on the operating table. And I was told I was very lucky that the surgeon said to me days later, somebody was watching over you. He said, if you believe in that kind of nonsense, he said, he said, it's a miracle you're alive. And my father had passed on just the year before. And I have it written in Whereafter, where I feel he petitioned my life to be returned to me. And that connection with my father still continues, because I've had huge after-death communication, not alone with him, but with my brother and with many other of my deceased loved ones. So I suppose for me, these I would call them now initiations, whereas once upon a time I would call them punishments from God. Why did you do this to me? But it was nothing got to do with what God was doing to me. It was my choices, and I had been gifted free will when I came on earth. So it's what I did with my choices and my free will. So I have learned that through all of these dark night of the soul journeys and my initiations, they were all pushing me and painful and all as they were, pushing me and moving me onto this beautiful green grass that you're now talking about, that I can absorb it. And yet I know there will be still other initiations to come, but I feel that my soul is ready. My soul is able to, whatever is presented to me now, I first of all, I say, okay, what is this lesson now? What is this situation? What is this person trying to teach me? What do I need to know to grow more soulfully? If that makes sense, Anna.
Yes, it does. And I was thinking quite a lot of different things as I was listening to you. But the first was that when I used the terms of the green grass, it was a figurative, it was figuratively, but at the same time, I think that there is something literal about it, because the connection between Taurus and nature is very, very strong. And right from the start, when we were just talking about you being in Ireland, and I asked you about the energy there, and you were talking about the sea and the energy and how you feel that's important and healing. So I wonder to what extent you're aware of nature having played a very, well, a part in your healing. I was going to say a very big part, because I suspect that it's supposed to play a big part. So what do you think?
Well, Anna, I just love nature. And my parents, we lived in the country. We lived in a very rural part of Ireland. So if you needed to go for a swim, you went to the lake. You didn't have a swimming pool. You didn't have anything like that. You dipped yourself in the nearest pond or a river. So we were always outside in the fields. We were playing. We'd play ball. We'd play hurling in the green pastures. We would run after sheep. You know, my father used to milk a cow, even though we were not farmers. But nature was huge. And even to this day, Anna, every morning of my life, predominantly, well, 5 mornings out of 7, I am up early and I greet the dawn most mornings. And I need to go to my sanctuary, my heaven on earth, which is in the woodlands in front of, and the Atlantic Ocean is right there on the shores of it. And I swim in the sea. I love the sea. And so I either walk or swim. So that is so important. It's like a balm. It soothes me. It sets me up for the day. And when I don't have that, I give myself kind of time off at the weekends, because sometimes I think I overdo it. I'll keep wanting to do more and more, which is probably in my chart as well. And so I know I have to be very cognizant of overdoing it, and that it's so important that I recharge and rebalance my energies, especially at the weekends.
Yes, I think, well, what you're describing is a real zest for living, which is rather wonderful. You also talked about the learning to forgive. And I think if I could put it this way, Scorpio instinctively holds on to everything. And the lesson of Scorpio really is to let go. And but here's the funny thing, is that Pisces, in its higher vibrational expression, is about forgiveness and unconditional love. So to me, it feels as though you already knew that it's almost, I think what I'm getting at here is that in this life, it's like an opportunity to consolidate a lot of learning that's come through various lifetimes. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of already knew about unconditional love. You already knew about forgiveness, but it was time to practice it in some way.
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is really exposing the bowels of Mariel. That's okay. No, Anna, no, do you know what? Forgiveness is what people I think don't understand as well is that forgiveness is nothing got to do with the other person. The forgiveness is it's a gift you give to yourself to set yourself free, to liberate yourself, to liberate your soul, and feel that nobody or anybody can control you from there on. And I suppose for me, Anna, after my surgery, it took a year because I had extensive surgeries. And when it would come to, that's how I went on to meet Louise Hay afterwards. Somebody had given me her book, You Can Heal Your Life, after my surgery. And it was sitting there on my locker, my bedside locker, for quite some time. And then, for the want of something better, forgive me, Louise Hay, as you're now in your spirit home, I started to read it. And I embellished it, but it came to the chapters on forgiveness, and I went, what? Forgiveness? No way. So I'd lick my finger and I flicked, go through the pages. No way, never, 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 not in a million years, right? So every other book I ever picked up, the chapter on forgiveness was lick and flick, throw away the pages. And then finally, one morning, it was like an illumination. I had read Louise Hay again, the chapter on forgiveness. It's amazing the way the spirit will always bring you back to what you need most at that time. And obviously I was ready. So I had to, one of our exercises was getting a mirror, and you look into that mirror and you keep looking into the eyes of your own soul self, and you look and you bless that inner child within. And I remember, oh my God, forgiveness. It was like I had to start at forgiving myself. Not got to do with my ex-husband, nothing. It was I had to forgive myself for all, even for my part in the breakdown of the marriage, which I felt I was flawless. I was perfect. I thought I was, but I had to forgive myself for my part. And it was hard to see where I fitted into that part of the equation, but I worked with it. I journaled, I meditated with it. But that morning, the early hours of that morning, I will never forget the sense of I had done something magnificent by forgiving myself, first of all, and forgiving him. And it was only then that the smaller pieces of my jigsaw of my life started to fit into place. I wasn't angry anymore. I had no hatred, bitterness, all the things that are not of the light. I had held them in my body, and no wonder my body reacted through cancer. They were festering inside. They were eating me up. And my journey towards wholeness totally began then. And to be honest, Anna, I have never, ever looked back. I can forgive people. People have done dreadful things to me. And because I would be very open to helping and being there and you know, making life easier for somebody else. But I can forgive. I will just bless them in love and light, and I'll say, okay, what have I learned here? Again, right? It's always, what am I learning? But then, Anna, there are beautiful stories in Whereafter, which have intrigued me, and one of them in particular was about she was Eva Moore's core, who was an Auschwitz survivor, and herself and her twin, they were one of 3,000 twins that went through the concentration camp in World War II under the Angel of Death, Michaela. And her forgiveness, she held this anger. They were one of the lucky ones to survive. Very few twins survived the atrocities of those experiments. But she 50 years later, she stood at the concert in Auschwitz in front of the crematorium and the gas chambers. And she read out a forgiveness process where she forgave the perpetrators and she forgave Mengele. And then she said she felt her freedom. And she said whatever bit of life was left in her, she was leaving it there. It was no longer having power over her. And that was an amazing story. And Nelson Mandela, his power of forgiveness, the day I read his book, and he said as he was standing at the doorway, walking into his freedom, he stopped and he paused and he said, if I walk out this door carrying the anger and the bitterness and the hatred and the frustration, and I walk out this door with it, well, I'll still be imprisoned. So I must leave it here. So there's great nuggets of forgiveness. There is many wonderful stories about forgiveness. And forgiveness is, as I said earlier, Anna, it's a gift to yourself. It's nothing got to do with the other person. And it actually is, forgiveness gives a much better sense of well-being, and your health is better, your life becomes enriched. And there was even a study done there in 2014, a Dr. Toussaint. He was working with people he was working with a cohort of people, those that forgave while they were very ill, those that didn't forgive while they were ill. And he said it was like chalk and cheese. Those that forgive, they started to heal. Their mental agility became sharper. Their physical agility became better and stronger. And they were at peace. So they were finding a different level of contentment in their lives. Those that refused to forgive, their whole immune system was totally compromised, and they became much worse in their sickness, you know? So forgiveness is huge.
It is huge. And I think we need to clarify here, because it's not easy. It's something we have to work at. And the reason it's not easy is because forgiveness is not about, it's not about the other person, in the sense that we're not saying it's okay that you did what you did by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't take away their responsibility or accountability. What it is about is letting go of the pain and the anger that's within ourselves. And that's why it's so difficult to do, because if we let go of the anger, it feels as though we're in some way condoning what the other person has done. And that's not the case. Mm-hmm. It's not at all the case. But what it is about is saying, this anger I feel is really about being in agony. And I want to deal with that agony so that I can be free from it. And then at least I can be free. The accountability is something different, but I need to be free from pain. And that's why it is such a big thing. And that's why it can make us ill when we hold on to it, because yes, it does depress the body, because we know that already. We know that if we're under stress, it compromises our immune system,
Totally.
overproduction of cortisol. And anger is a form of stress. It's about pain and depression, etc. So this is why it's important that we work on freeing ourselves from pain. So that's the beauty of forgiveness, is that what we're really doing is we're setting ourselves free. And that comes back to the Scorpio I was talking about. It's about the reluctance of letting go, but the lesson is exactly that. It's to let go, because then, and here's the final beautiful symbol for Scorpio, is transformation. And what you have is the phoenix rising out of the ashes. So this is the promise. You go through that pain and don't hold on to it. Find a way of healing so that you can let it go. And then what you have is the phoenix. And so this is a good point on which to leave our conversation, with the phoenix.
That's amazing. That is beautiful, Anna. And I love the symbol of the phoenix. Absolutely love. I'm very drawn to the phoenix, out of the ashes and into the horizons of soulfulness. I love it. Thank you so much for that, Anna.
Well, thank you for speaking to us, or speaking to me today on Life Astrologer.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and you have opened up many vistas of further thinking and further, I suppose, delving into the unknown in relation to astrology for me. So thank you so much, Anna. It's been a gift. I bless you.
It's good to stimulate that Gemini side of you.
Thank you.
Well, for those who would like to read Whereafter, I will be putting a link on the description box for this interview. And of course, do look at In the Light. There will be a link for that as well, because Mariel and I will be talking in greater detail about the book. Mariel, if people wanted to find you, how could they do that?
My website is marielfordeclarke.com, and all the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, it's all there. It's tied in with that one link.
Wonderful. So I'll make sure that that's in the description box again. Thank you so much. And thank you all for watching. Do make sure that you subscribe so that you can see all the other wonderful interviews that are on this channel.